Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to The Joy Show. I'm Barbara Jean, I'm your host, and I'm delighted that you're here. Joy is an acronym that stands for just one you. And that's what this show is all about, celebrating the unique individual paths that we each take on this life journey. But let's begin with a land acknowledgement. So we are honored to be meeting on the land that many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island call home. We acknowledge and thank the original caretakers and knowledge keepers of this territory. The Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. We also give thanks to all other Indigenous peoples, recorded and unrecorded, who have shared responsibility for this territory. In honoring the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, which protects this territory, we accept our responsibility to peaceably share and care for the resources that surround us. And we also acknowledge, as inhabitants of these lands, that inequity and discrimination continue to affect our BIPOC and 2S LGBTQI plus family. So we therefore strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation. Recognizing our ultimate oneness and acknowledging our reality, past and present, we commit to moving forward in a spirit of mutual cooperation. We are one. Well, I am super excited today to have one of my favorite musicians in the world on the show. Karen Drucker is all about healing and love, whether singing one of her positive messages, sharing stories that are funny, inspiring, and heart-opening, and oh, is she funny. She is a keynote speaker, a women's retreat facilitator, and entertainer who has recorded 20 CDs of her inspirational music. They're all fabulous. Karen is also author of the best-selling book, Let Go of the Shore, Songs and Stories to Set the Soul Free, or the Spirit Free, excuse me. Her chants and songs are used around the world and often help people deal with illness and loss, or help them feel the need to feel more centered for the day. Karen's intention is to make a difference by using her music to open hearts and share a music of hope, acceptance, and love. Yay, Karen, you are just a change agent in our world.
Well, what a great introduction. My goodness, that just made my day. I'm complete. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
yay. All is well.
All
I
is well.
wanted to share with you, I did a business blessing on Monday for the Toronto People with AIDS Foundation, where I serve as one of their directors, on the board of directors, that is. So we did this whole thing. We had about 80 people, and it's a workplace. And there's people there who are living with HIV. There's people there who work for the company, blah, 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 right? It's a mixed group. So I decide that the perfect thing to do is have them create a circle and do I stand before you.
Oh, really? Oh, neat.
So we created the circle. I had each person come around and just give one word intention for their use of the space. And then I asked them to stretch. And so Genevieve and I, my daughter, her and I started it and showed them what we were doing. And then we went around the room and people just joined up pair to pair. Everybody did it.
They did the movements and everything. You taught them all the
They didn't,
movements.
they didn't do all the movements, but they sang to each other and bowed to each other and said thank
All you
you.
need to do. That's
I
all you need.
know, I know. It's so
Great.
powerful. I'm just all tingly thinking about it. And
Oh,
it's watching people with tears, with their fear, but
yeah.
their willingness. They were so
Mm,
willing. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. And then we closed it with Let There Be Peace on Earth.
mm.
It was, it was a powerful, powerful.
Wow. I gotta say, when I hear stories like that, that makes me the happiest. I
Oh,
write this music for it to be used and shared, and
yeah,
when I hear that, and especially when it's linked up to an experience like that, like if someone hears that song again, they immediately go back to that experience.
yeah,
I think that's what
exactly.
my little song "You Are the Face of God." I think that's what
Oh,
it is to a lot of people, is that they've been in a workshop or whatever, and we're
yeah,
looking at someone and that song is playing and they're singing it to them, and that every time they hear that song, they go back to that place, and
right back to that
that's
moment.
that's one of my favorite things. So thank you
That's
for using me.
well, it's so interesting because I sometimes I second guess myself, right? Spirit goes, "Oh, do this," and it's like, really?
Yeah.
But what was fascinating is I got to sing to probably a third of the people because I went around and just nose to
And
nose.
that's what my thing is too. Whenever now I'm facilitating, I put myself in the group and it makes it so
Absolutely.
much more powerful than me just facilitating and waiting for them to be done. I mean, I love
Yeah.
looking at them. I love looking and seeing what, just seeing their faces change and their expressions. But for me to be in there too, I love it.
It's so rich and it just speaks to the quality of what you do. And the reason I wanted to interview you, well, I love you, but beyond that,
I love you.
but beyond that, it's like you have, I mean, you've had a life. You're not
Oh
18
yeah, I've
anymore.
had a life. Let me tell you, I've had a life. Yes, I
Yeah,
have.
that's a joy. We get to an age and go, I've had a life. Let me keep some of it in the back here, but I got a life.
Yeah, yeah.
But I look at the music because I've listened to probably everything you've done, and as I listen to your music, it always sort of anchors me in a way to whatever's going on in my life at that moment, and so it'll make me cry, or it'll make me laugh, or it'll just cause me to feel peaceful. But every time I listen to it, I just have this wondering, like, tell me about how you found your way here. Like, how did you find CSL? How did you get doing what you're doing? I'm just curious.
Well, it's a story, let me tell you. I really I really look at life very much like it's such a zigzag quest that we are all on, that we think it's all about just here I am and I want to go over there and I'm going to just keep focusing in on that and it's going to lead me there. And it just doesn't seem to be that way, does it? It's like life just kind of takes you in these different things. And one of my favorite stories, I before I launch into my little story here, is that I liken it to, I think I've told you this story about that. I was part of the first American women's relay team to swim the English Channel.
Yes,
And the
yes.
thing I love about this story is that if you're standing on the shore of Dover, England, looking at where you're supposed to go to Calais, France, it's 22 miles. But the truth is, if you went straight across, you would never make it. You have to go in this zigzag all the way across of catching all the tides. And you have a pilot boat right next to you that is looking at I just look at the pilot boat like as God, it's like this higher power overseeing the whole thing of going, okay, I see the tides are shifting here. So we've got to go over this way. And then the next person is going to go that way. And so what happens is you wind up doing 32 miles instead of 22 because
Right.
now you're going like this, but it makes it that I swim for an hour, then the next person gets in and she swims this way, then the next person goes that way. And I look at my life in that exact same way, that it's like when I was living in Los Angeles, and trying to be a singer songwriter. And I think y'all know the story of, that I was a babysitter for Carole King's children. And that's how I got into music. And you didn't know that?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's my story is that, yeah, I was 16 years old. I grew up in Laurel Canyon and I was the babysitter for all the kids on my street. And so Carol King moved onto my street right as Tapestry, her big album was being released. And I
Yeah.
just marched down there, knocked on the door and said, "Hi there, I babysit for everybody. If you want to hire me, I'm available." And she goes, "Great." So she had a nanny that had a couple days off every week. So I was the person who came in and babysat. And so I went on the road with her. I went to, when she was on tour, I would take care of the babies. I mean, it was just, I used to
Wow.
get picked up in a limousine, to go babysitting for her when she lived out in Malibu. I mean, that was, what a life. That's how, that's how I got my curly hair. I used to have, this straight, mousy brown. I was always straightening my hair and she just looked at me and said, "Okay, we need a makeover." And she took me to her hairdresser, got my hair cut like this. She
Yeah.
gave me her funky clothes. I mean, she became like the second mom to me.
Oh,
But
beautiful.
what happened was the story of it is that she was remodeling her recording studio. And I came home one day and all of a sudden here was her piano in my bedroom. And she had
Oh,
talked to my mom about could we store the piano at, at our, because she knew I wanted to do music. could I use it? Could I have it for a couple months? Well, it turned out to be a year. And that's how I got into music, is I started writing these teenage angst type of songs, that no one knows me and loves me and I have pimples and, I mean, it was just awful. And I couldn't sing my way out of a paper bag. And she said, if you write your own songs, it doesn't matter. If you can't sing well, she said, look at me and look at Bob Dylan. So I became a songwriter, at that early age. And anyway, but so, so as time went on, now I'm a, young adult. I'm trying to, get a recording deal and be a little mini Carole King type person. And I'm writing all these songs about my life sucks and everything's terrible. And, and that's what was almost getting published, were songs like that, because that's what everyone can relate to. But I moved up to San Francisco eventually and wound up doing more comedy. I became, I started to work in all the comedy clubs with, Dana Carvey and Robin Williams, all these people. And I was, playing all the different comedy clubs, but I was doing musical comedy. I would write comedy songs for my different musical characters.
Nice.
And I was doing that. I was playing eventually with a band. I started doing, private parties and weddings and stuff like that all through the years and playing clubs. But it wasn't until it was like around 1998, I think, that my friend Melissa Felipe, I don't know if you know her, but great singer-songwriter. She was the music director of a CSL church in Napa. And she called me up and she said, I know you don't do church, but I need a sub for this one Sunday. Can you come? I'll pay you $100. Just sing a couple of happy songs. And I'm like, I don't do church. I don't know what this is. I mean, I'm a rock and roll singer at this point. And, she goes, just, what else are you going to do on a Sunday morning? And I went, well, you're right. Okay. I'll drive up to Napa and see what this is all about. Yeah. And, it was the first time I sat down playing piano and people were into what I was doing and singing these songs. And she kept subbing to me more and more. And eventually I became the music director of that church. And eventually I ran out of happy songs. And I just thought, well, why don't I try and write a song that goes with the minister's message? And that was like a brand new concept to me. And I started doing that. And around that time, I did a women's retreat that I had sung a bunch of these songs at. And as a gift, I wanted to give these women that I just loved. I had never done a women's retreat before. I was just doing the music. And I thought, well, I'll just make them a little cassette of these songs, and and I hadn't recorded that much or anything, but I just thought, well, I want to give all these women this gift. And it took a while to make this little cassette. And someone said, well, why don't you make it into a CD? Like, CD, why would I do that? Who else would listen to it other than these women? But that's what Songs of the Spirit 1 is, my little purple album that I made in 1999. And that set me on this path.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's interesting. I graduated ministry in 98. So that's the year that I started at the Vernon Church. Okanagan Center for Positive Living is what it was called at the time. And
Wow.
Funny, 1998, big year.
Yeah. And, what happened for me, I mean, I was still playing rock and roll jobs and, private parties till 2:00 in the morning and then doing church in the morning. But then, what happened for me was 9/11 happened. And all of a sudden, all the gigs I had, and especially all the comedy jobs that I had, everything got canceled. Everyone just said, it's not appropriate to laugh anymore and whatever. So what was really interesting was, just starting to write more songs, these positive message songs. And especially back then, my mother at that time was dealing with cancer. And I started to write songs for her, little chants that she could listen to when she was going in for her chemo visits. And that really just set me on a whole other path. That's around when Songs of the Spirit 2 came out. And all of a sudden, where I had all these gigs that were keeping me afloat, now all of a sudden it just started to change. That, more that my album started to sell, and I started to become that much more involved with this world, and really just said, it was never that kind of a thing where I had to say, I quit doing private parties. I quit being a rock and roll singer. It was just Spirit just all of a sudden took the wheel and said, okay, we're going, that zigzag path here. We're going to go down this this way, and it's been that way ever since. I mean, doing talks, doing women's retreats, everything that I've done has been that significant time where it's just you make that shift. And I
Yeah.
really, again, I go back to that swim. I liken it to the idea that at that moment, it's like when you tag off to the next person and they start swimming,
Yeah.
and then you tag off the next person and she starts swimming. It just feels like each of the segments of my life, which this is where my book was born, was
Yeah.
writing about all this stuff because everyone kept saying, these stories are really interesting. Why don't you just start, writing little essays or something? And I just kept writing, and all of a sudden I had a whole book. So, that was a whole
Wow.
other thing. But it just, everything has really been like when you're doing something that brings you joy and you're in your element and it's a real it for you, you're going, yeah, this is it. I love doing this. Then
Yes.
all of a sudden, and that's what I think is interesting about what your topic is all about here, because you can all of a sudden be doing this. And then at one point, all of a sudden, it doesn't light you up. It doesn't work for you. You're getting knots in your stomach about, why doesn't this feel good anymore? What's wrong? It was great 6 months ago. What's wrong with me? And I truly believe that's when spirit comes in and goes, up. It's time for the next person to jump in and do the next, the next leg. And you
Yeah.
never know when that's going to happen. But I
Nope.
truly believe that spirit is always calling us out to
I
say, are you expressing to your fullest? Are you happy? Are you doing what your joy is?
Yeah.
And I love that Marie Kondo concept of, what sparks joy.
If
You
it
can
brings you joy,
actually
keep it. Otherwise, toss it.
toss it. I mean, one of my favorite expressions is stop watering dead plants.
That's good advice.
I mean, when things are just like they're withering on the vine and you keep going, what if I just put more Miracle Grow in? So, and you talk to it and you go, I love you, plant. It's dead.
It's
It's
dead.
done.
It's done.
Plant
So,
something new. It had its day, and I've had to look at that and there's grieving in that. There's grieving sometimes and going, well, this was what I was doing, but it's not who I am anymore.
yeah. I think that idea of the evolution of us is so important. Like a couple of weeks, well, I guess it's maybe a month ago now, I was sitting there and I thought, I work all the time. Now, I love what I do, so I work all the time. And I thought, but what do I do for pleasure? Like, what do I do for play?
You
And
and
I
me
thought,
both, girlfriend. This is my issue. You're hitting right on my little nerve.
yeah. And I just all of a sudden went, holy crap, I don't do anything that is just for me for joy. And so I thought, okay, I got to fix that. So what are a couple things that I would love to do? Well, when I was a teenager at 14, I took piano lessons for about 9 months. I was really good at it, but very low self-esteem. So my teacher says to me one day, what are you going to do with your music? And I said, well, one day I'll teach like you. And she slammed her hand down and she said, you will not teach. You have a gift. You'll be a concert pianist. So I quit a couple weeks later because I knew that I would only disappoint her. All of my life. So I'm 14. I think I quit with her when I was just before I turned 15. My entire life, I've always had a piano. Pianos find me. I just always have pianos and I don't play. So a couple of weeks ago, well, a month ago, I went, enough. Yes, you're getting old. And who cares? If not now, when? And I
Yeah.
started taking piano lessons.
I love this.
So every day I'm doing my scales, trying to get my crunchy older fingers limbered up so I can play. And every day I'm on that piano. And because I have now a digital piano, I can plug in the headphones. Doesn't matter what the rest of the house is doing. I can do my scales till my fingers are raw, and nobody needs to listen. But and I'd come up with three things. One was the piano, which I did. And interestingly, my daughter had a voice lesson that afternoon that she got sick and couldn't go to the voice lesson. And her voice coach also teaches piano. So I texted her teacher and said, Genevieve's sick and can't come. Can I come? She was like, yeah,
Wow,
get over it.
sure, yeah. Oh, that's so great.
Everything lines up when we make a decision. And even when I started ministry, I knew right away I was going to start a center in Toronto. And Carol told me, yeah, well, nobody's going to hire you straight out of school. So you got to go, and start something because nobody's going to hire you. And so, surprise, surprise, somebody did hire me. The Vernon Church hired me straight out of school. But I knew, like when Carol said that to me, I said, that's fine. I'll go to Toronto and start one. And she just sort of went, yeah, yeah. I think she'd heard it from many students they were going to be ministers and that nobody did it. But so I didn't, you talk about that zigzag. So I lived in Calgary, Alberta. I go to Vernon, British Columbia, so going west. And then a year and a half later, fly east to Toronto. So it's like, I had to do that zigzag to get here. And I think that's, when you talk about that, I thought that's always the way life works, is
Yes.
it takes us wherever our next learning is that prepares us for what it is that we say we want to do. There's that preparation time if we could just be patient. So I love
Wow,
that.
I love your story. And I will tell you, so one thing I'm just curious about, the teacher in me wants to know, are you learning how to play note for note or are you learning how to play chords?
Right now, I'm learning both because what she's doing is well, I'm working on my sight reading because I haven't read for so long. It's like, what is that? So that's a bit of a. I'm trying
Okay,
to think.
so all right, well,
Mhm.
here's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to send
Okay.
you today
Yeah.
my thing all about. I have this little thing that's like, here are all the different chords you could do, but I'm going
Yeah.
to send you all of my songbooks.
You
And
know what? I think I have most of them.
do you?
You
Well,
already sent me a bunch.
okay, well, see if you do, because I'll send
Yeah,
you the
I
whole
will.
thing. And then
Yeah.
what you do, because here's the thing. Do you know I can't read I can't read any notes. If you
Right.
put Mary Had a Little Lamb in front of me, I'd have to go, every good boy does fine. Okay, that's an F. I mean, so I just play by chords. I see a C chord and an F chord, but I'm singing the melody. So
Right.
with that, if you can do that, if you can learn how to do that, you could
Yeah.
sit down and be playing for
Um,
hours.
yeah.
So, I'm going to be now your spiritual support coach.
Woo! I love it.
Yeah,
I
because
love
it's
that.
just,
Thank you.
if you're having to read, real sheet music and sight read, that's just, I mean, that's great. And I think it's wonderful if you could do that, but
Yeah.
that's real discipline and it takes longer. I don't have that ability. I just sit down. I know how to improvise around, here's a C chord, here's an F chord, here's a G. And most of my songs are that easy that you can
Yeah.
just play those
Yeah.
chords. So,
Oh, I'm really excited to actually go through your songbooks and see which ones I have. And because I know I have a lot. You gifted me with just a whole pile of stuff. And it was
well,
like,
and then another thing too, another little technique is you put me on in the background and you play
yeah.
along with the band. So you play along with me. So
Oh,
that's how I actually learned how to play piano. Is I took Carole King records, I put on Tapestry, I had the sheet music, and you play along, and that's how you learn how to do time, and you just learn how to play because I do it all in the same key. So the
yes.
key, the sheet music in is the same as the record. So you can listen to, you can have a little CD player next to you or whatever, your downloads or whatever, and just play
Yeah.
that while you're playing. So that's your lesson for today. Thank you.
Awesome. And for everybody out there watching, hello, you just got
Well,
yourself a lesson.
here's the thing. We all make it so much harder than it needs to be.
Yes.
When you think about joy and think about
Mm,
going for what it is that brings you joy,
yeah.
it's like I think we make it like, if you're going to do anything, I've got to sit down and play piano for an hour every day. Well, you might do that for 3 days because you're all pumped up from a lesson.
You get bored.
Then you get bored or you don't have time, or then what happens, and this is the key, I think, to all of this stuff,
Yeah.
is you set it up in your mind you're supposed to do all this time, but now a few days have gone by and now you feel guilty and then your critic can just jump in there and go, see, you never do this. Who do you
You
think you
never
are that
thought.
you can play piano at this age? Come on, you tried this, and it'll just put all that stuff in your head.
Yeah.
And, going back to what you talked about, well, let me just finish that thought, because the thing is, if you could just do everything in the smallest amount of time,
Yeah.
the agreement with yourself is, I'm going to sit down for, well, this is what I teach in all my workshops, is this concept of micro movements, 30
Yes.
seconds to 5 minutes. So if you just sit down for a minute or two and play one song,
Yeah.
that's great. Now, if you go on from that and you keep going, great, go for 2 hours. But it's that part that when you think it has to be longer, and then you
Yeah.
don't do it because you're going, I don't have the time today.
One of the things that I have done, which has been, I think, helpful right along that line, is because I work all the time and I work from home and my piano's, a mere few feet away, I'm able to go, okay, I've been on my computer for 2 hours, enough. And I'll
Yeah.
go sit down at the piano for 10 minutes. I'll run through all my scales, I'll play a couple of songs, and then it'll be, oh, got to make a call. And then I go back to work. And so I do that back and forth all day. So sometimes I'll sit down once in the day, sometimes I'll sit down 4 or 5 times in the day. And so yeah, I love what you're saying, that you just don't set up that parameter that's too strict that you're not going to
Yeah,
be
that's
able
the
to.
expectation. The expectation that you have to do this every day, and if you don't, you've messed up or whatever. And
You're
I
bad.
think it's hysterical that I've got the exact same thing as you around rest and play. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd think, listening to my music, I would think, like, especially I have a song called Permission to Play, that I'm all about play and let's have fun. Actually, wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. I've got to show you this. It's on my bulletin board right here. Wait a second. Look at this. What's right on my bulletin board right next to me? Can you
I
see that?
love that. One day she woke up and had fun.
I have this right here so that I remember. And it's really interesting because, Barbara, this is really, it's really an issue for me. And this is why I wrote Permission to Play,
Yeah.
and that song, that little song is all about, I'm going to just dance and laugh because, and one of the key lines in that song, if I recall, it's like, things will get done when I have fun,
Mm.
and
Oh, I love that.
a lot of this stuff is about, really, that's what I always say whenever I do a concert. You can see what all my issues are because that's what I'm writing about. But I have, Let It Be Easy, Permission to Play, all these different songs that are about resting and playing and having space. And it's just my issue because I'm just the same as you. I love what I do.
Yeah.
It fills me up. It's just what I do. And
Yeah.
yet, how much, how do I want to say this? How much can I be out doing all this stuff if I'm not filling up my own tank? And that's what I think is so interesting about my songs, is that so many
Yeah.
of them are talking about that. But it's what I'm affirming to myself, that I need to do that.
Yeah.
And Gentle with Myself is probably my most popular song. And there are times when I'm beating myself up. I'm going, you idiot, why did it? And I feel even more guilty that it's like, wait a minute, you're the person who wrote Gentle with Yourself. You're supposed to be, you
So let me put my song on
forgot.
so I can hear it.
Yeah. Well, and then I have my friends, then I have friends going, you really should listen to a Karen Drucker song. And I'm like, shut up.
My husband says to me all the time, you should check out CSL on the Lake. It's
Yeah.
really got
You
some
got some
great
great
concepts.
ideas there.
There's
Yeah.
there's
So,
some really good ideas. You could learn something.
but it's the same thing what we're talking about with your piano, with what our issue is here. It's like, resting doesn't have to be, I'm going to lie down for, 5 hours in the middle of the day when I've got stuff to do.
No.
For me, what's interesting is, like, even reading a book. Like, I remember when what is that book when the crawdads sing? What is that book that was so
Oh,
popular?
yeah, I know which one you're talking.
Yeah, I can't remember where the crawdads sing, I think.
Sounds
Anyway,
about right.
I remember reading that book, and for me to just lie down and read a book is a big deal. But someone gave me this book and said, "You've got to read this. It's really great." And I got hooked. And it was like, okay, after lunch, I'm going to just take 10 minutes. I'm going to read like one chapter. And it was such an interesting thing to watch me lie down and, enjoy doing this, but hear those voices in my head going, you can't do this. You've got all these emails you have to return. What are you doing? You don't have the time to do this. But I'd say, no, I'm just going to read one chapter. And when I did that and let just acknowledge those voices going, thanks for sharing, And what would be so amazing was I would get into the book and now, well, one more chapter. And a half hour went by. And did life as we know it,
And
blow up because Karen Drucker didn't get to every single email that afternoon? And it's like a lesson I have to just keep reminding myself of and doing and practicing, because I don't want to go to the same amount of burnout that I was in before the pandemic. Because when the pandemic happened, I wasn't even aware of how truly burned out I was. And all of
right.
a sudden, when everything was canceling and I got 3 days back and now I got 4 days back from, a gig or whatever, I was ecstatic. As much as I was freaking out about what was happening, another part of me was like, you mean I get to just be home and quiet? And, and I
Yeah,
made such a vow to myself when we went back, when things kind of started to get back again, that
yeah.
I wouldn't do what I did. And I'll tell you, Barbara, I would just be honest with you and say, for the last probably about month and a half, I've been exactly in that place that I was in before the pandemic. I was literally traveling every single weekend,
So here we are talking about balance.
balance. That's it. That's it.
I love it. We're going to take a short commercial break and we'll be right back. So don't go away, anybody. We will be right back in just a moment with the remarkable Karen Drucker.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
And we're back. And my guest today, Karen Drucker, the remarkable musician, talent extraordinaire, living life a little out of balance, because that's what most of us do.
Yeah. And learning how to come back.
I think that's the thing, is that reminder, and it's one of those things with your song, "Gentle with Myself." I always think of that phrase about that newborn baby child. How we and that just says it all. If we could treat ourselves that gently as we would a newborn baby,
That's it.
wow, Wow.
Yeah,
Where
that's why that line was there. Just like, well, do you know that? Did I ever tell you the story about how I wrote that little chant?
No, no.
So I had done something really stupid, and I was beating myself up big time. I was just going, "You idiot, Drucker, you idiot! Why did you do this?" And I was just like, just having this, just throwing all this stuff at me, and I was just awful. And I called a friend of mine, and I thought, okay, if I called her, maybe she's going to make me feel better. And I call her up, and I go, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe this stupid thing I did." And she goes, "You stop it right there. I will not have you talk to my friend that way." Which gave me pause. And she
Yeah.
said, "Would you ever imagine speaking to a child the way you're speaking to yourself right now? Could you ever imagine if a child was just starting to walk, that you'd be going, you come on, baby, get up. What's your problem? Why are you falling down? Why would you
Yeah.
wouldn't do it. You would be so sweet and go, come on, little one. It's okay. You can do it. So why would you speak to yourself, in this way?" And so I hung up the phone, and I started to do that thing that babies do when they're trying to comfort themselves, which is this,
Yes.
rocking. And I just started to do this. And out of that place, I just heard this thing, just be gentle with yourself. Treat your heart with tenderness. Be easy. And, I just started to get these lines. And then, the little chant just popped out like within 5 minutes, just like, just be tender and sweet.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is, my music now is on, like Spotify and Pandora and all those things. But on Spotify, I think it's really interesting. I didn't even know how you find out, how many people have streamed your songs, but somehow I got turned on to this, to be able to learn how to do this. And, that song, of all the songs I've written, is my number one streamed song with over 2 million streams, because I believe that that's what all of our issues are.
It is.
It's just being gentle and kind and, just give ourselves a break.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
think we're so hard
absolutely.
on ourselves. And I am.
Well, and we all do it. And I think that's probably why the song is so popular, is because we can all resonate to needing to be gentle with
Yeah.
ourselves. We've forgotten. And what I love about that, and I mean, my all-time favorite song, because I'll always ask for it, is I No Longer Have the Right to Sing the Blues.
Oh,
I still remember the first time I heard that. It was in a concert. I don't know where we were, somewhere in the world. And you stood up and did that song, and I just lost it. I thought, oh my gosh, that is the best song ever. It
thank
just
you.
it just takes us from our griping and complaining, and my dog ran away, my wife's gone, and all that stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, just because
Well, and that's what's happening right now for me is, I'm singing all these, like I'm doing a gratitude talk. I did it the other day. I'm doing one on Sunday, and it's just like, I think we are so wired to complain,
oh
to
my
have
goodness.
complaining be like the main thing we do, and so to get to a point of just going, well, wait a minute, I've got a roof over my head, I've got food, I've got this, and to just say, I've lost the right. I can't complain about anything anymore, especially if you look around what's going on in the world. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the big things, and what I love is that your music is, I think, inspiring thousands of people to rethink the way we look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. I think it causes us to pause. Like, the words you're saying are similar words that I would use in a Sunday lesson, but you put music with those words, and it's like a more visceral experience,
Yeah.
because there's something about the music that it just, even if you're not a singer or whatever, you just keep, you sing it over and over in your own mind because the tune stays.
Well,
And
and that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, you really hit the main intention of what my mission is. Because
yeah.
do you know the expression what an earworm is? Have you ever heard that idea? So an earworm, I mean, this is actually a really technical term. An
Yeah.
earworm is when you get a song in your head and it
Yeah.
just plays all day long. So that's what a jingle is. That it's
Oh,
specifically geared to have that jingle go in your head, or that's what makes a pop song or a country song famous, because you're driving along and you're like, oh, I want that song to be played again on the radio, and then it's like, oh, there it is, but it stays, and it's like, it's kind of the backdrop for your whole day, is that you're hearing this song. And so that's what the intention of all my music is, exactly this, that I want to be the earworm that when you start beating yourself up, that you hear, I will be gentle with myself, and because when you think about a jingle, I mean, whenever I teach my chanting, how to write your own chant workshop, I always start off with plop, plop, fizz, fizz. And everyone always goes, oh, what are we deserve a break today. What is it? So get up and get away to McDonald's. I mean, that stuff is from, or even in the valley of the jolly, ho, 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 green giant. Those things are from a gazillion years ago, and yet they're right there in your consciousness. They're right there in your muscle memory.
I'll tell you, music to me is just the most remarkable thing because of the way it does imprint on us and stay. Anything like, even, when I think of Pachelbel's Canon in D, it's there's something about that it just immediately, the cells of my body realign themselves.
Right.
Just thinking about that song played on piano, because I do prefer it.
Oh yeah, beautiful on piano.
Beautiful.
And I just think, and that's what my chants, that's why specifically my chants are all about, is that I want it to be that when you are affirming, I mean, when you just, have an affirmation and you're just saying it over and over, it just does not resonate. It just doesn't drop down enough into your consciousness, into your soul. Enough. And I think that when you sing it, it does a cellular change, because oxytocin gets released. It's like you just all of a sudden have this whole experience. And so especially like what I do with my chants, it's very specific that I'm going to say that line, or whatever that phrase is, over and over and over and over. Like, so it's like, I remember writing, I have a chant called Let It Go. And I remember I cracked myself up because I wanted to write something about just let it go, just let it go. And I wrote pages and pages about why I should let it go, how to let it go, blah, blah. And then finally I heard Spirit just say, just let it go. Just, that's all you need to say. So the whole song is 5 minutes of let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. But, what I try and do musically is do something different each time around. So the backups are going to do something neat, or there's a musical thing that happens. But it's basically, you're just going to hear that message over and over and over. And hopefully it resonates and goes into your soul.
Yeah. And it really, really does. I think that's what's so remarkable about it, is that, if we want to, we look at, if we want to change anything, they say it takes 21 days to change a habit, create a new habit. I think it's probably closer to 60. But when we're creating new ways of being within ourselves, music has a way of sort of facilitating the quicker shift, because it anchors it at different levels. And that's why when I do service, it's like, I want that combination of music and message. And I remember
you get it. I mean, you get it. That's what I appreciate about you. I mean, I'm so grateful to you that you've been using my music in your talks for a while. That's how we met each other. But I think that those are, I mean, this is my opinion, but those are the churches that I think keep people coming back, because it's the combination of the lesson, and then taking that lesson and anchoring it with a song that you're going to remember that. And there are many churches that don't get it. I mean, I remember one church that I played at, the minister called music the necessary evil of a church service. Isn't that amazing? It's like he put up with having music because the congregation wanted it. It's like he called it the necessary evil. And he just would have a cow if anybody asked, if you asked the congregation to sing or stand up or clap, he just had a fit. Because he just thought that's not, but you don't know, because you're in the different consciousness. But just know, I've been out there a long time. I've played a lot of churches, and I resonate with the ones that get it, that get me, that understand it.
Yeah, it's a combination of things. It really is a combination of things. And when we can weave it together, my necessary evil is announcements.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I'd
well,
rather not do those, but people need to know what's coming, and they're not going to open their email.
when I was a music director once, I used to, because the minister I used to work with had the same feeling, and so she let me. I put all the announcements to music. So it would be like a jazz thing going, hey, this Thursday, we're going to have a potluck. Everybody bring some turkey. Yeah. It's just like I sang them all, and people looked forward to what I was going to do every week. So it totally changed it. But yeah,
Want to do my announcements?
maybe I should.
It's so funny that you say that because I love that. One of the funny things I did years ago with the first CSL here in Toronto was I've always loved the poem that Holmes wrote at the front of the Science Mind, Peace Be Unto Thee, Stranger. And so one Sunday I'm doing the lesson and I sang that poem, and my band went, oh, that needs to be a song.
Yeah.
And so they made it into a song. And it's like I never loved the song because it just had more of a country vibe. And my sound man went, oh, you should have been a country singer. I'm like, no, thank you. I kind of like rock and roll and stuff. I'm not going to do country. But it's such a beautiful message in that thing. And my daughter, who you heard sing, she would play the CD of this silly song of me singing it every day at bedtime for a long time. She'd go, oh, put on Peace Be Unto Thee, Stranger. Put on.
Mm-hmm.
So years ago, we were doing some special event. It might have been my birthday or something at Verity when I was attending there. And she turned around and said, the minister goes, oh, we've got something special for Rev B. And Genevieve got up and sang that song to me, which was kind of sweet because it's like, wow. But I'd love to see it rewritten, like musically rewritten.
Well, guess what?
Hmm.
You are going to write it.
All
because
right.
that's the thing about you playing piano now. I would love to see you and support you in writing your own chants, even if it's just that you say it's just for you right now. That don't put that expectation of, oh, it's got to be for church, it's got to be, but just start to look at as a spiritual practice that when you sit down at the piano, say, what is it that I need to say to myself right now? And write it down. It could be one line, it could be 2 lines, it could be whatever it is, but just play a chord and see what melody happens, and then play another chord and see what happens. And that's how I write my chants. I just go, what do I need to say to myself?
I've had a music lesson here today.
Well, that's why we're here. But I mean, that's why I think you've gone back to piano. I don't think it's going to be the same thing as when you were 14. Now it can be a spiritual practice for you to, when you do get good at those chords, you could start closing your eyes and just go between 2 or 3 chords back and forth and just let yourself have a melody come out. Let it be terrible. Let it be, whatever it is, but you just kind of start crafting it and going, okay, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and maybe that's what's going to happen. So I would start with that line, write a chant.
Yeah, because it's such a great poem. That's one of the things about Ernest Holmes. Some of the stuff he wrote is so poetic. Even the meditations and stuff in the back of the book, it's like there's so much love in it. Of course, and the big poem, can't remember the name of it. Oh, anyway, I lost it.
Start with
the whole book.
Sometimes I would just open up Science of Mind and just go like this, and a line would pop out, and I would just, as an exercise, just write. I mean, David Alt and we really have to finish this because we did it, we performed it, but I've never recorded the song. But one of my favorite lines from, what's it called? My favorite book. Well, anyway, the line was, I am the center of divine attraction.
Oh, I love that.
All things, all pure and blessed things, come to me now. I mean, that's from Creative Mind and Success.
Oh, yes. That's a great book.
It's a great book. And that's one of his lines. I am the center of, I'm the center of divine attraction. All things, all pure and blessed things are coming to me now. And so to just write something, but see, look at how I could remember that by singing that.
And that's the thing that I noticed, like one of the songs that I played when I was 14, I was able to sit down and actually play it. And my husband's looking at me because I haven't played for years, and he's watching me and he goes, "That is so cool." And I went, "What?" And he goes, "That your body remembers."
Yeah.
My hands remember what to do. And
Right.
even when I went to my first piano lesson and I put my hands on the keys, she goes, "Oh, okay." I don't have to tell
You've been here before.
You've been here before. So,
Yeah.
we have this body memory as well, but I think music has a way of just sort of bringing everything together. And it's always been a big part of my life, although I'm not a musician.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, stop. Sorry, we're doing therapy with each other today. So that is the thing that makes me the craziest, is that in any workshop I teach, I'm doing a chanting workshop, and I'll always have someone come and go, "Okay, but I'm not a singer or I'm not a musician." And they've just written like the most amazing thing, but that's
Yeah.
what we do. That's our
It
inner
is.
critic that comes in. It's like this just old, stale, worn down thing of just, I'm not a fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
And you just keep using that neural pathway that just keeps reinforcing, "Oh, I'm not a musician. I'm not a musician." So you sit down at the piano to play after 90 years and you just go, "Oh, but I can't do this because I'm not a musician." So my first, thing in this piano lesson we're having today is to affirm. And I would say as your new piano teacher, I would say that the first thing you do every time you sit down at the piano, "I'm a musician. I'm a great musician. I'm a musician."
Thank you.
That you
Yes.
really just keep affirming it.
Yes.
And the other thing too, because I was a teacher for a million years doing this, that let it be okay when old feelings, old stale, old rusty feelings come up from being 14 when you made that decision. Because that's still in you, of that thing of like, I'm going to disappoint someone, or I'm not going to be as good as a concert pianist, or I'm not. And as you sit down, I believe those layers are going to start to emerge.
Yeah, they will.
For you to start to reclaim who you are at this age, acknowledge the 14-year-old and say, "God bless you, little one, that you just didn't know any better. And, here I am now. I'm claiming this now as my new way of being a musician." And who knows what can come from it? I mean, it could just be amazing for you that that you start writing. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? You start writing songs.
It would be phenomenal. It would just be
really fun.
Yeah. And I've had a dream of writing a musical forever. And
Well,
so
guess what?
I just go, "God, what, have you lost it?" Why would you give me that vision?
No, it's more, "God, you found it." Yeah. Yeah.
We found it. And I thought, oh, well, my daughter's a musician, so I'll just write the stories and everything, and she'll put the music to it.
She's a musician. I'm not, but she can sing. But yeah. So I would
love you.
support you in just letting all that, just let it go, let it go, let it go.
All right. Well, we're down to our last 5.5 minutes. Go figure.
No, say it isn't so. This is too fun.
I know it's gone
That's
so
the
fast.
thing. Okay, so here, if we're talking about joy, let's wrap it up with this. When you're in joy, that's the thing. It's like time goes like that, because it's slow. And that's what I think, to your listeners, I would say that's the thing I'm always looking at in my life is what lights me up, what dims me down, what sucks my energy, what gives me energy, what is real fun. And so you and I, girlfriend, are now committing to each other.
Yes,
we are going to do. I mean, let's both think of 2 things this week that would be fun, that our little inner critic's going to go, "No, you don't have time for this. You have to write a talk." That you do something that would be fun. So
absolutely.
what would it be for you?
Well, mine is going to be to sit down at the piano and tell myself what a great musician I am and have fun with it and play with some chords and just fiddle about, and be okay making mistakes and
Yeah.
just know that my hands are getting more and more, they're getting really flexible now. They're getting
And your
better.
mind will be too. Your mind needs to be get flexible around that you can do this too. I would say even open up one of my songbooks and just don't even look at what the song is, just look at what the chords are and just play those chords back and forth and see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. No, absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited about that. I'll have to
Yeah.
go do that once we get off this show here. I'll go.
And I'm making the commitment that this book that I started like 2 months ago, that a friend of mine, we both started at the same time. She literally said to me, "You haven't finished it yet? Like, what's your problem?" I'm going to finish that book. I'm going to lie down today for like 10 minutes and I'm going to it's a great little book. I'm just going to finish it. Like, stop.
Awesome. What book is it?
It's called Writing with Sherman. It's I don't know, it's just this really interesting little, just a really cute inspirational book that she told me about. But
Oh,
because I didn't take the time because I'm too busy,
nice.
I would never finish it. And I would take it on the road with me. I would read it when I was on the plane, but then I get home and just abandon all that. My birthday's next month. I'm going to make an
Oh,
appointment
mine
right now,
too. When's yours?
December 19th.
I'm 16.
Wow, happy birthday,
Happy
Sagittarius.
birthday.
That's why we get along so well. So I'm going to make an appointment right now for a massage. There's this great place that does massage and facials and all this. I'm just going to go and have a beautiful day. So I'm going to make that appointment right now.
You know what? I think I'll do one of those too.
Okay. There you
That'll
go.
be good. All right. Now we've only got 3 minutes left,
Okay.
but I think we can't finish without hearing you sing.
Okay. What should I sing? What happens if I go over? This is too long. Wait a minute. Here's one that's 3 minutes. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, let's do this because let's just give thanks for everything right now.
Yes, I love that. Thank you.
Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. If you hear my cat, she's singing backups. Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. Right, sing it out if you're listening online. Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. Here's the next part. I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. I'm so blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. So blessed. Sing that one more time. I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. So blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. So blessed. Sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. I've been blessed with you for this hour, Barbara. It was just lovely to be with you. Very fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Hang on for a minute as we log off because I just want to say something before.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You are such a gift. Make sure that you go to KarenDrucker.com, download her music, get her songbooks, and make it a blessed day. And we'll be back again next week. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Bye for now.